Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of The Coaches Show here on Hornet Radio. I'm your host, Caleb Ramos, and this week we are able to talk to a couple of Fullerton College football coaches about their current spring ball practices, the upcoming next fall season, and more. All of that right here on The Coaches Show.
I'm here with Phil Austin, co-head coach of the Fullerton Hornets. And Phil, let's start off with last year. We finished 8-3. We ended up winning the bowl game. Can you talk about the momentum that carries into the new season ahead?
Well, 8-3 is not bad. I mean, me and Coach Crooks took over and we went 5-5. That's not very good. And then, improved to 8-3. So we showed some progress, showed some improvement. But our end goal is to get back to where we were 10 years ago and become state champs again.
So I want to bring this up as well. You were 12 for 23 on fourth down, 39 out of 52 in the red zone. So basically 75% on the red zone, 50% on fourth down. Can you talk about why that's so important to keep the momentum when you've got it, when you're on the field, staying on the field?
Well, for sure. I mean, getting Coach Campbell back after a year off sabbatical was clutch. He's a genius as an offensive coordinator and a leader of our offense. And Coach Crooks and I have 100% confidence in him and making those decisions on fourth down and making good decisions in the red zone to get us points. Could have done a little bit better. The special teams game, kicking field goals. But hats off to Coach Campbell. That offensive line was amazing. You have 3 Division I offensive linemen on there, and then you got 2 coming back that are probably Division I players too. So we like to really hang our hat with our offensive line and be physical up front, and that kind of dictates the momentum. And playing in that rain in a bowl game, you got to be able to line them up and knock them down. And it was fun, especially being Riverside, kind of a rival of ours the past decade or so. It was fun to be able to rush that many times for, I think, over 300 yards and be productive that way.
I absolutely love that. And I want to kind of stick with you for a moment. You're a great example. You start at Pasadena City College, you went to Hawaii, and then you're able to, further your career by, trying out with the 49ers in 2000. And all of that experience along the way, you're able to then provide back to the students here at Fullerton College, pardon me. Can you talk about that and how that you're able to use that, your own personal experience starting at a city college and then, making the progress to University of Hawaii?
Yeah, so I kind of came full circle. I walked on at Washington State and things didn't work out. I was immature and had to learn things the hard way and, swallow my pride and come back to junior college. Spent some time at Mount Sac and then went over to Pasadena with Tom Marr. So, just like a lot of other of our staff members, most of them are JUCO guys. So we were at the JUCO level. We all got scholarships to the next level and all became successful. And I had to learn that I was more than just an athlete. You grow up and everyone kind of treats you as an athlete, and you find yourself uncomfortable in certain settings like classrooms and academic situations. So, I kind of had to reset after I finished. I didn't graduate and then slowly kept going back to school to finally get my degree because I was out there trying to get jobs and thinking I was a great coach and I'll get a job. But if you don't have the degree or proper credentials, it's not going to happen. So, I had to go back to school. I looked at my transcripts and I noticed that I didn't get 1A in college while I was there. So I was just like ashamed, I was embarrassed, just to myself. And I didn't tell anyone. When I went back to school, there were certain classes that I used to tell myself that there was no way that I was going to pass those classes. That was just my mentality at the time. And when I went back to school, I kind of just made a promise to myself that I was going to get straight A's. And I did. I got straight A's, went on and took a master's program in kinesiology, continued to get straight A's, and all those classes I thought that I could never pass, I got A's in. And I didn't just want to get an A, I wanted to get an A+. And I think that's how you should approach life. Anything that you put your name on, anything that you're involved in, you put your all into it and you try to do the best at it. So I try to do A+. That's why 8-3 is not good enough. You could always do better, right?
Amen.
You just heard from Dan Prady alongside co-head coach for the Hornets, Phil Austin, and earlier this week we were able to catch up with defensive back coach Conrad White. Now standing here with Coach Conrad White for the Fullerton College Hornets, the defensive backs coach. Coach White, thank you for joining us. Now, a few weeks into spring training already, how are you feeling about your guys?
Pretty good. I think we have a good group, a good foundation. We're missing a couple pieces, but I like where the group is headed right now. They're being sponges, so everything's new. They're getting a lot of things thrown at them, and they're taking it in stride, and they're able to kind of grow right now. So.
You mentioned a few pieces missing. You have 3 starters from last year that went on to 4 years. How do you kind of try and replace their production?
Well, we got to recruit. That's the main thing, and I think we got some guys that came in the spring that are going to help us out, and we got some gray shirts last year as well that are going to step up and become guys this year. But like I said, we're definitely missing a couple pieces that we're going to bring in the summer, and those are going to be the guys that are going to be some impact guys and help us out on the field.
What do you look for when you recruit a player?
First of all, I like to stand out is their athleticism and technique, right? What they're working on, their technique, looking at their footwork. What are they, are they able to stay square if they're in press, or if they're safety, are they coming down and laying the hat, running the alley, things like that, getting into the middle of the field, and then showing their range and stuff like that too. So just making sure they're kind of being a complete football player, a complete defensive back, because you can play corner on our defense and you can play safety in our defense. And that's how we like to do things, is develop and dual train them in both. So that's kind of what we look for, right?
Now, I had the opportunity to talk to a couple of your guys over the winter from last year, and they mentioned that you really helped them both on and off the field. What does that mean, hearing that from them?
It means a lot, especially being their mentor, being kind of, that big brother, uncle type figure. That means the world to me, and that's why you do it. You want to help these guys get to the next level, and that's why I do it for, helping them develop, get to the next level, and then obtaining those scholarships. I think I get the most joy out of that, so definitely.
Now, how do you kind of help them both on and off the field to attain those goals and kind of become better people, as you said?
Making sure that, they are showing up with integrity. They're doing the right things on and off the field. I have the big 3 C's that I go by is chances, choices, and changes. You have a chance every day to make a choice that'll change your life every day, and that choice can be a positive thing or it can be a negative thing. And I really try to speak life into them and give them the positivity, because I'm going to talk down on them as much as I can on the field, but I also bring them up,
Right.
But, I get on them, and the standard is set high, especially because of the transfer rate and how many DBs we got going to the next level. We want to keep that, and we want more. We had 3 this year. We want 6 this year. We had 6 with offers this year with 6 offers, but because of grades and things like that, we weren't able to complete that. But my goal is to get at least 6 guys Division I offers. So that's my goal this year, is to make sure that they're in their classroom. I'm on their grades even more this year. I'm doing grade checks with them. We're having meetings and stuff like that, spending that extra time with them. I think that's what kind of builds that relationship, to where I can talk to them kind of any way we want to, I need to, and get my point across without that disrespect, and they understand because we built that relationship.
Now, you mentioned those kind of meetings to be able to build those relationships. What are those meetings like for you?
My meetings are wild. If you have any background in coaching defensive backs, you know that you got to be a special kind of dude. You got your marbles got to be little wonky, my dad likes to say your cheese got to slide off the cracker a little bit, right? So one minute we'll be talking about football. Next thing we're talking about girls. We're talking about life. We're talking about food, best food. So another thing I took from Coach Vrabel is we talk about a history. We talk about a hero. We talk about a heartbreak, and then.
Thank you, Coach White and Coach Austin, for joining us here on the Coaches Show this week. If you want to see the full conversation with them and offensive line coach Latte Bankudagba, be sure to check out the upcoming supplemental episode of the Coaches Show coming out this Sunday. For Dan, Tommy, Becky, and everybody else here, I'm Caleb Ramos, and this has been the Coaches Show on Hornet Radio.